Please shout if you hear your name. Check that JR is present. Yes, that's correct. Thank you. Continuing. Were there any names that were not mentioned? Lauri. Recorded and present. Any other Polytechnical members? No? Any other names that were not mentioned? Was not mentioned. We have 41 members of the Representative Council present, and greener Aalto, vihreämpi Aalto will have people arriving late. We have 41 members of the Representative Council present, and we give the right of residence and speech, of course, to the interpreters, the AYYE staff, AYYE board members, and the group chair people who are present if they do not have the right to speech reside. Are there any others who wish to like to speak? No. Closing item 2, moving on to item 3, recording lawfulness and forum of the meeting. So basically you all know this. According to the regulations, we need at least 25 members of the Representative Council. And since notifications have been done 1 week prior as per the regulations, we have lawfulness and quorum. I will not read the regulations line to reiterate. Just can deem that we are lawful and have quorum. Those are 3 moving on to item 4, scrutinizing 2 scrutinizers of the minutes and 2 counters of the votes. So we need 4 names. You know that you're present for the entire meeting. Any volunteers? So, the vote counters or scrutinizers of the minutes?
Se on parempi, että otetaan vähän pöytäkirjatarkastajia mieluummin silleen vähän laajemmassa skaalassa, koska sit se ei ole yhdessä ihmisessä kiinni, jos ei sit allekirjoittaa niitä juttuja. Yhä ja allekirjoituksesta riippuu kaikki pöytäkirjat, niin se on juhlista. Jos muita vapaaehtoisia pöytäkirjatarkastajia. Jos ei muita, niin eivät toimii, paitsi ääntenlaskijoita. Täällä on Petteri. Vielä yksi.
One more name, please.
Emmi on toinen. Ja varmaan käy, että toimii toisten varahenkilöinä tuttuu tapaan. Yes. Eli valitaan pöytäkirjat.
So, chosen as scrutinizer of the minutes. I need a name. Aaro Hämeri. Very good. Who's just agreeing this that
pöytäkirjan tarkastajaksi Aaro Hämeri ja Emmi Filman ja ääntenlaskijoiksi Petteri Helistä ja Emmi
Kosomaa.
Sitten muusta järjestäytymisestä.
Otetaan
eli jos ei muita tämmöisiä asioita tähän, niin päätetty. Otetaan kohta 4, siirrytään kohtaan 5, kokouksen järjestyksen vahvistaminen.
confirming the agenda.
Esityslistan toimintakoostuksen
The
yhteydessä.
agenda has been
Ja jos joku estä sinne mitään lisäkohtia, niin hyväksytään esityslistan kokouksen
are
työjärjestykseksi.
additions,
Onko muita esityksiä?
suggest we approve the template as
Tulkisin, että
presented.
ei.
Seems like no.
Siirrytään päättämään.
Moving to
Päätetään
deciding
työjärjestyksen
that
kokouksen esityslista.
the agenda is confirmed as the template for the agenda for the meeting.
Kohta 5 siirrytään.
Closing item 5, moving on to item 6, announcements.
Voisin aloittaa sillä,
I would start
että
by announcing that we have with the microphones, we are having some sort of some complications to ensure that the interpreters and the stream gets a good enough quality of sound. You'll come and ask for the request for the floor. I will tell the two names, the person speaking, and then one after that you'll come up front to speak. So if you have these nice lines there, you can maybe spread out a bit, so you don't have to pass 10 people when you come up front. And also to make this easier to come up front, I know that it might be stressful for some of you, but I've been bringing these post-it cards that you can write points, so you won't forget them, so you don't have to freeze up in front. One other item that we discussed in the last meeting, if we have a request for the floor up front, it's very important that you be respectful to the people speaking up front. It's really dreary that if you are speaking in front and people are pointing fingers or giggling or stuff like that, it might be unwarranted, it might be something that you can think about. Please do not do that. Question? I think that the discussion won't be as fruitful if we have the request for the floor up front. Is this only a temporary measure, or are we correcting this? The aim is that if you are doing a request for the floor, it's good that you could maybe prepare. It's not that big a hassle to come up front and speak. I know it's easy just to raise your hand, say your two pieces, or two phrases, and then be done with it. So coming up front might be a bit bothersome, but I think it's a request for a floor, and we are a representative council. It would be best if you can do that seating down. Maybe we could get more microphones in, but okay. I agree with that last year's when discussing or looking at streams. If you look at the online, it doesn't feel at all bad. But I agree that it actually lessens our credibility if you have this sitting down. Shut up. Like maybe we could ask, like, is there somebody who is watching the stream? To answer this question. So we'll come up front, and if we have items where we are not actually discussing or deciding anything, we just free-form discussion or preliminary discussions. So if you have items which are up for debate or decision, come up front. If there is considerable difficulties for some individuals, we can discuss it more then. Any other notices or announcements? We've also announced that Radio Diodi call for programs applications is open. Please submit your program ideas. Also, Vappu is coming. May Day events and the May Day week. If no other announcements, I will close item 6 and move to item 7. So, item 7, latest news from the central office. Vice Chair Aalto-Mäki will present. Good evening, Representative Council. It's nice to be here and to see all of you. Let's start with the new people, as is tradition. So we have Heidi Duva starting as our real estate specialist. Housing secretary recruitment is still ongoing. And in terms of interns, we will hire 3 interns for the positions up on the board. I think that the first one, organizational development, intern has already been chosen, but we haven't informed all applicants, so that's why we don't have the name here. And in the next few days we'll have the 2 others upcoming for developing well-being and communications. It was a very good exercise for the office because we had lots of very, very good applications, and we decided on 3. And so the internship applications are closed. On the advocacy, we have the All-Well survey, which is called discussion. We got the declaration for the results. And the university has a policy on results that they publish them only when experts are present, so that the experts can actually answer the questions proposed. During the spring, we already received this. There will be school-based information events, and our number 1 goal is to get student representatives on each and every unveiling. So if you know in your background organizations you are interested in the All-Well results, so to the school or program, to the leadership, please inform so you can attend these unveilings. And then international student query, ISB, international student barometer results have arrived, and we have 2 points. The relevance of studies and pertains to working life was considered as weak, and opening a bank account was difficult. These are something that the international sector will tackle next on how to repair these issues. Then we are also searching for vice rector, because Eero Eloranta is retiring during this year, I think in August. And the recruitment process committee has 1 slot for AYYE. We are really happy that we got lots of names from the community and suggestions for the vice rector in charge of studies, and we will now try to get them through in the committee. On harassment and interceding after the last meeting, we had a lot of discussion, and we've started to tackle this problem, which is that we don't have enough information and means of interceding. So this is the first thing we're going to try and solve. It's also said that it says to actually recognize and intercede, we are meaning kind of a low threshold service, low threshold channels through which you can intercede and recognize harassment, and these are being developed with the organization and new students as well. The interpreter has lost the sound for some reason now, and it's back. And also we are thinking of drafting in the volunteers and organizing training for them. These are the goals or points of focus here. In communications, the renewal of the web pages, we've decided to order these from an outside source. So that will be up for competitive tendering. Also, a nice thing for next year, we'll have an AYYE in Tokyo combined design calendar, and this is the visual outlook, what it will look like. So that there was a competition, and the winning suggestion came from Reetta Vartiola. Maybe it's 18 plus 19 calendar. The community side, the art year 2018 is continuing. Clear goal. We recruited the art year work group. The call for applications is closed, and we will be doing our choices shortly. This work group will help and spar the Solar Arts Year project, and especially the Otaniemen Night project, which will be the crown jewel of the event for the whole art year. And we've discussed with the university, especially concerning facilities and venues, and also undergone discussions pertaining to the entirety of the art year, especially like what could the university do, especially the orientation week has been a point of discussion. Then we've had some events that already taken place, one mosaic and the campus sector. and also upcoming events.
Ja sitten sieltä löytyy
One mosaic
järjestöillä
movie night and some
tietoturvakoulutusta. Ja
ICT
sitten
training for organizations, and regarding the art year theme we have this free day at the Atheneum Art Museum upcoming.
Asumisessa
In housing,
pääsemään Suomen
we are trying to
jäseneksi.
gain membership to the Suomen Opiskelija-asunnot Association, Finnish Student Housing Association.
Saadaan enemmän tukea meidän asumispalvelun
This is to
kehittämiseen.
gain more support to developing our living services from other associations and other parties.
Kiinteistöissä
In real estate, we have Jämärän Taipale 3, 5 and 7 renovations are proceeding at a nice pace. The project is about halfway, so by the summer of 2019 we should have a ready project. We start from 7, moving to 5, then to 3. So currently we are renovating 5. Thus, these 3 facilities are closing, so Korsu, Kylä, Olohuone and the Tatami Hall are going out of service until the renovations are complete. The Miestentie new building is proceeding really nicely. You can see that it's almost 1 floor per day. Then the board went to the SEXMY event, networked with other student unions, and next week we'll have the spring vacations. Any questions? If you have any questions or comments, you may actually the presenter will reiterate the questions to get them on the stream as well. The question was that can you give us concrete examples of what we'll get out of SOA ry joining it. It will cost us some money to join the organization. I think like a ballpark sum. I can answer that. I can answer the question. What to get from SOA? It costs about it's a lump sum plus increments based on spaces. I'd say that I think for AYYE is about €10,000 a year. What do we receive? That we receive multiple opportunities to organize training, designing, how we can develop better students' housing, we'll get benchmarking targets and information of the other parties who do this similar. So we've kind of been alone and looking at the other people and other parties develop their actions. The idea is to actually tap into that, and we can join them in developing our housing to see what the others do and to improve our actions based on that.
Jotain muuta vielä.
Anything else?
Sieltä Petteriltä lisää.
Right, more from Petteri.
Kysyttiin
the questions with highlights from the SEXMY
tuliko oivalluksia.
event. Were there any big innovations?
SEXMY-tapaamisen teemana oli hyvinvointi, eli sopi hyvin tähän meidän
based on well-being. That was the theme. So it goes well with our goals. And like I discussed earlier, we had the International Student Banking Services. Turku had a really good benchmark for that one.
Kyllä se suurin anti oli se toimijoihin tutustuminen.
Thing was getting to know our operators in this SEXMY event. So with the board, we had this very good psychologist-driven workshop on well-being. Does the board have anything to fulfill? If I might have forgotten something. No, just thumbs up. Good. Any other questions? Latakin maybe answer this. The question was that will there be information regarding the all-well results that will be handed out, or do you actually have to go these unveilings to hear stuff about them? Yes, about the all-well results. That item-based results
korkeakoulujen varadekaanit.
Actually governed by the vice deans of the schools, so you'll have to ask through your study organizations, these study program-based. The Aalto leadership is very, very strict, is that we don't actually have any kind of beauty pageants from between the schools, so we don't have like comparison results between the schools or the school-based results or the major-based results that we'll have a social policy council which is open to everyone, where you can hear from the Aalto results and discuss what to do about them. The dates will be unveiled within this following week when we are getting the study psychologist there to present the results. Yes, we will send an invitation to the list. Of the representative council. What I will continue. So the question was why we saw the results here last year and why today, this year not. Well, no particular reasons. We can probably have them here eventually, but the unveiling is still under progress. And I think the Aalto official communications took quite a long time. Hopefully there will be a bit more speed this year, but maybe we can get these Aalto-based results here on the representative council as well. Was it developed onwards that we ask only the second and fourth year students? The AYYE is part of the successful student project, which is currently lasting until 2021, and this AYYE survey has been deemed into this bracket based on the project. What we are aiming and what we are trying to advocate and what we discussed at the office is that we should get this to be a part of our ongoing activities, and in that stage we can actually ponder on broadening the survey. But currently this is only for the second year bachelor students and first year master students. Do you have any waiting for the speaker to reiterate the question? So during this year, and no. So, developing digital services was the topic. Nico could maybe open this up a bit. So, yes, on part, we can implement the web pages. I would say we can maybe give an example that we've been discussing is that, for example, we need to fulfill the event calendar manually, get some sort of automatization there. Maybe like add a Facebook link which will pick up the right information and items like this. So we are still in the baby steps and we are still in the early stages at the moment, but we are trying to develop things. Putting this earlier, we've asked the board on how to utilize the community knowledge of this. Has this been pondered forward or developed? Do you meaning when the website, generally with AYYE digital services? No, on the level that you probably are thinking of. Any questions? Petteri. Regarding the vice rector in charge of studies. What's the timetable? I'm sorry if you said it. The question was that what is the timetable for the vice rector's recruiting process? Well, maybe answer it since she is in the recruitment group. Since she's spoken to the microphone that was not on, the interpreter could not hear that. Anything else from the office's part? If not, and in addition to when we have the office announcements, latest news, we have some from the recruitments, we have corporate relations, which are discussed a lot. It seems like we are not actually talked about corporate relations enough. What's being done, who works there, how much money is there involved. So we'll have a short presentation on what corporate relations actually are. Corporate cooperation. Mihail and board member in charge of alumni and corporate cooperation. And I also have Otto Pervis, our corporate cooperation coordinator. So here we have some of the corporate relations aims. We'll be seeing the numbers soon. So not only the student union, but the community. The aim is to do this in tight cooperation with organizations working within AYYYE sphere of influence. And another older point we've had from the start is that developing the member base's working options. So as a kind of a cross-disciplinary grind directions, we can present these recruitment information, and we have all kinds of recruitment information and work information from various fields of expertise. The third one is a new point, offer of services, started up last fall. Currently we have a contract with OP right now, and we managed to negotiate, I think now was like a 20 year age limit. No, I think we lowered it to 18, and we got some cars, which have been very popular. We also had an idea from Dexmo that after the vacation we'll start to discuss how can we make this bank issue for international students. How can we resolve that? In Turku, the system is in place and works quite well, so we'll actually look there towards solution. With the website updating and revamp process, that maybe we could get an offer afterwards. Like if we could offer, for example, electricity, power, contracts, insurance for your apartments, something that should go along with the real estate. So that becomes part of services. You can notice like a company could have these products that could be tested in Finland and haven't been tested elsewhere. We maybe advance. We have a few points that AYYYE is an enabler, which acts as a supporter of its students and organizations. And kind of has a yearly budget as our guiding action plan and an ethical policy paper. So this spring we aim to write down our vision, mission and strategy for the upcoming years. Combine these cooperation with the others. This is our budget for this year. So there's some tulot tosiaan tavoitteena on noin 200,000 ja kuluja. About 200,000 euro in income and about 90,000 in expenses, so 110,000 euros in income is our basis. The expenses are also based on the staff costs, but also the calendar and the aino and revenue sales to Pirunyrkki. We have a goal of about 30,000 euros for the aino and revenue sales. And it says that our staff costs amount to about 60,000 euros and other costs are about 30,000. There's a more detailed breakdown of the costs and the budget. In the right-hand side, you can see this year's goal, which is 111,000 euros, and out of the membership fees we've budgeted. That's the number we injected it not. 800 or something. So we are kind of, as you can see, aiming for double. Then we'll have a graph. This is what we are aiming at.
Niin, kuten tuossa olikin, niin
As you saw in the, you can see in this graph that we have more expenses, and we've now been recruited to sales, who are doing new sales, not always doing our old clients and developing our sales. And we have the lineup. We have 4 people at the office, me as the board representatives. We have our corporate relations coordinator and 2 sales coordinators, and then we have the section chairperson who was a volunteer. And section people, we've been discussing for them that they could sell sponsorships to events. So kind of new activities earlier they've had on their field, for example. Clients, but it wasn't very motivational for them, so this kind of a pilot project. And the corporate relations committee, which is comprised of all subject organization representatives of corporate relations, is what makes up the committee. Here in short are our visibility channels, what we offer in terms of visibility. You can see event visibility, which is taken by the sector cooperation with the office. And we have some numbers, like we have the weekly newsletter, we have the Facebook numbers, and those some numbers. 12,000 is the print for the calendar, and the AYYYE magazine print is 4,500. 1,500 on Instagram and 1,900 on Twitter. Then we have this kind of a bonus thing that AYYYE offers, named facilities and apartments. We have at AYYYE company, AYYYE-yhtiöt, we have the rented them, so we have the AYYYE sauna. Well, since we are renovating Korsu and stuff like that, so we are discussing, maybe we could get that somebody as their namespace. Then from time to time we have this housing project that we could sell, like apartment buildings. So yeah, we could sell an apartment building and they could give their name for it. So we will maybe discuss that in the fall. Then one action plan point was this YTMK and AYYYE recruiting fair. And in between November and December we'd have a larger recruiting event here in Otaniemi. And we've had an event this big, organised by students before, so we can see a bit better now. And here we have the AYYYE role is that of an enabler of a grand event. We are aiming for 0 checksum in terms of expenses, and we have some of the money to go to the organizations, to actually all of our organizations who wish to take part in this, and half of the income would be going to the expenses. We've discussed with the university regarding the fair and other cooperation. So possible forms of cooperation have been discussed. We'll see how that pans out in the future. So, there we have it. That was our presentation. Any questions?
Yes.
The question was that how does the corporate relations section and the producers work together, because previously it has been seen that the communication hasn't worked very well, and we have showed things that the event organizers can implement. And we tried the same model a couple of years ago, and I went to try it again. because we have to see that it motivates our volunteers much better than the models we used previously. And this year we've taken this into account by involving our members of the sections, so they attend the event organizers' meetings in order to have more knowledge about what is going on in the event, and do this kind of corporate relation work that support the event. Subsequent recruitment and recruitment fair, so taking account that not all Aalto people are recruited to big technical companies. In the recruitment fairs, there are almost always just these big technology companies. Yes, we also take this into account. We've talked a lot with Tokyo, both with the chairperson Matti and Kili and the corporate relations person. And the art organizations will talk with them, and we try to find a solution for that. We need to focus on that also, so that all schools of Aalto will be represented. If no other questions, then we can move forward. Thank you for the presentation.
Jos toivotaan, niin voidaan pitää tällaisia pieniä tietoiskoja jatkossakin jostain vähän kapemmasta aiheesta. Tämä nyt oli tämmöinen pilotti.
Fact sessions in the future if you want to. So, thumbs up if you enjoyed this. Yes, very good. So we'll be doing this more in the future.
Sitten suljetaan aiheesta keskustelua ja siirrytään
päättämään. Decision. The proposal was the council decides based on record the news from the central office.
Suljetaan kohta
It has been
7,
decided,
kohtaan 8
7
opiskelijakeskuksen
moving to
tilanteen
item 8,
päivitys.
status update in the student center project. So, hello everyone. We're representing the recent news about the student center here with Noora and what has been done in March. Currently we are working on 2 different areas, and in both we have a member of the board taking care of that. I'm taking care of the real estate side. We're working on facility program, trying to get the expenses to be more realistic, and then we just want to influence the zoning. And Noora is responsible for the community side. We'll be here more from that later. And for AYYE we also have Secretary General, Financial Director, Real Estate Director. We also have a real estate expert hired, Heidi Ruula, who will also be involved in the project in the future. In addition to that, we are doing this with the whole working group. There's representatives from all 3 different parties. Let's go through them. Okay, we have Eeva Lauritsala. And from DF we have Peter Selniemi and Cosmo.
Eeva on myös KOin-hallituksessa, Petter on DF:n hallituksessa ja sitten Cosmo Jenytin on mukana myös sitten DF:n puolelta. No joo, kiinteistöpuolella mitä tässä
on tapahtunut, niin tosiaan viimeksi kerrottiinkin, että perustettiin set up this 1+1 expert working group.
Me ollaan nyt tavattu sen työryhmän kanssa 2
When I
kertaa,
met the working group 2 times,
istun minä ja sitten
and I'm there representing the AYYE.
Petri Valkama kyllä.
And Petri Valkama is also representing AYYE.
Mutta joo, tosiaan siellä ollaan nyt keskusteltu näistä eri jokaisen tahon eri tiloista ja koettu sitten
spaces for the different parties, and try to divide them more and see what we could merge,
mitkä on sellaisia, mitä jokainen tarvii omia erikseen. Ja se työ tässä jatkuu ja huomenna
and we will continue on that tomorrow. when we will meet again.
Ja tavoitteena olisi se, että saadaan tällaisia skenaarioita, joita voitaisiin teillekin esittää. Ja niistä niin kuin tämmöisiä ehdotuksia, että millaisella tilalla päästä sitten eteenpäin tässä hankkeessa. Eli tosiaan siinä niin kuin viime vuoden loppupuolella valmistuneessa hankesuunnitelmassa oli aika lailla vaan jokaisen tahon tilat eritelty, että ei ollut oikeastaan sellaisia niin kuin ihan hirveästi vielä yhdistämispaikkoja siinä nähtävissä, niin halutaan sitä Sitten kaavoituspuolella tosiaan yksi kaavoituskokous välillä ja siellä sitten todettiin, että tarvitaan vähän lisää aikaa tähän, että saatiin tuohon niin kuin nyt todennäköisesti tavoite olisi syyskuun alussa sitten saada se kaava tuonne kaupunkisuunnittelulautakuntaan, eli alun perin se oli tarkoitus tässä keväällä viedä, mutta todettiin sitten hankeosapuolen kesken, että tässä on nyt hyvä mennä vähän rauhallisemmin niin, että sitten saadaan kaavaan sellainen ehdotus, joka sitten palvelee niin kaikkia tahoja tässä. Eli tosiaan ei haluta sinne kaavaan sellaista merkintää, että se jotenkin vaikeuttaisi tai ajaisi taloudelliseen umpikujaan. Ja ehkä sellainen vielä, että kiinteistöpuolella tosiaan kuukausi on aika lyhyt aika, että niin hirveästi siinä ei kerkeä tapahtua, mutta kuitenkin koko aika työstää vielä eteenpäin. Ja jos tulee kysyttävää, niin voi toki kysyä kesken. Mutta joo, tässä vielä muistutuksena. Siellä on toi Kemistin kortteli tosiaan ympyröity.
Chemistry block, which has been encircled where the student center would be built.
Koillis nurkkaan.
There in the corner.
Ja muistutuksena myös tässä nyt kilpailuvaiheessa kuva, jonka olette varmaan nähnyt, mutta tuossa on toi leima nyt päällä, vaikka näitä kuvia näytäänkin, niin tässä vaiheessa kaikki on luonnoksia, eli opiskelijakeskus ei tule näyttämään tältä sitten lopulta, että ollaan jo tunnistettu näitä haasteita, mitä tässä ehdotuksessa on ollut. Esimerkiksi noi avoimet karvat lahiseinät tai sellaista ei halutaan kehittää sitä niinku yhdessä sitten suunnittelijoiden kanssa sellaiseen suuntaan, että se olisi meille taloudellisesti
into a direction that would be more financially feasible for us.
Yes. Mä kerron vähän tästä yhteiskunnallisuudesta ja mä halusin lähteä liikkeelle tästä visiosta, joka on kirjattu myös tähän opiskelijoiden-reunaehtoihin, jotka on viime vuoden erarissa hyväksytty. Ja tosiaan siellähän tämä kaikkien yhteinen visio tai pätkä siitä on, että opiskelijakeskus on opiskelijoiden kohtaamisen ja opiskelun paikka, johon jokaisella aaltolaisella on syytä No, täällä eräissä on ollut keskustelua siitä, että koetaan, että tämä visio ei ole tarpeeksi selkeä, tämä ei ole vielä riittävä. Ja on haluttu tavallaan selkeyttää tätä ja niin jotenkin miettiä ehkä sitä, että mikä se syy on, joka niin saa ihmiset tulemaan sinne opiskelijakeskukseen. Ja siihen me haluttaisiin löytää vastauksia nyt tällä opiskelijakeskusseminaarilla. Eli tämä järjestetään 12.4. kello 16-20 tuolla Harald Herringin oppimiskeskuksessa. Mä oon lähettänyt tästä edellisellä jonkun mailin ja puhuttiin Telegramissakin ihan vähän aikaa sitten. Ja täällä olisi tosiaan tavoitteena sitten niinku tarkentaa sitä visioa, konkretisoida sitä ja miettiä niinku saada niitä ideoita jäsenistä tähän. Ja me halutaan saada tänne eri tahojen edustajia monipuolisesti. Tänne on kutsuttu Edustajiston, sitten neuvosto, eli Edustajiston puheenjohtajat ja vielä AY-vapaaehtoisesta jaostojen edustajat. Eli puheenjohtajat tai jotkut muut henkilöt, että saataisiin mahdollisimman monipuolisesti edustusta tonne. Tosiaan toivon, että jos teillä ei vielä kalenterissa ylhäällä tää, niin merkitkää, että olisi tärkeää saada eri laajasti edustusta eri edustajista ryhmistä. Siellä oli joku mielenilma. Se oli hyvin vaikea. Mä tiedän, että tässä on hukkaputkissa samana päivänä. Tää on ollut tiedossa, mutta tää on ollut todella vaikea niin tilallisesti ja muutenkin tämän päivän suhteen. Tää oli silti niin vaihtoehdoista, huonoista vaihtoehdoista paras. Me haluttiin tässä myös sitä, että HY:llä tää visiotyö on ollut paljon pidemmällä, samoin myös TF on ollut paljon pidemmällä joku AY-puolella. Ja meillä on hyvät yhteydet sinne tämän työryhmän kautta, niin on ajateltu, että se oli mahdollisimman monet näistä muista tahoista pääsis paikalle. Että totta kai ikävää, mutta tää on ollut tiedossa ja valitettavasti EE:llä ei hirveästi ollut tässä vaihtoehtoja.
ylioppilaskunnan pitäisi ottaa
the student union.
tai siis kaikki sidosryhmät on huomioon.
Take all stakeholder groups into account, that shouldn't exclude one stakeholder group.
Tähän näin tällaisessa tilanteessa. Se, että jokaisesta edustajista ryhmästä tulee niinku tietty määrä edustajia, ja ainakin henkilöstö toivoo, että edustajat osaa priorisoida APRON ja tämmöisen tärkeän seminaarin välillä. Se on niinku sitä joka ikisellä killalla on joka päivä huhtikuussa. Joka ikisellä voi olla isoja tapahtumia. Muistaakseni joskus olleena oli ihan kivaa. Joskus pitää vaan todeta, että se on päällä ja ihmiset priorisoi.
This is the only day, then it seems like very good preparation work, if that's the only good day.
Niin, totta kai ikävää, mutta täytyy sanoa, että esimerkiksi tämä on kuitenkin iso workshop, tarvii aika paljon tilaa. Meillä ei ihan hirveästi ole sellaisia vaihtoehtoja, mihin me saadaan sekä tämä iso ihmismassa samaan aikaan, että monta pientä workshopia samaan aikaan vedettyä. Ollaan tosiaan pahoillaan tästä, mutta valitettavasti käy näin. Mutta sen lisäksi mä haluan lisätä, että tämä ei todellakaan ole kuitenkaan ainoa tapa, millä näitä ideoita kerätään. Me ollaan otettu tämän workshopin pohjalta, tämän seminaarin pohjalta, sitten toivottavasti tehtäisiin esimerkiksi kysely, jossa voidaan sitten näitä ideoita hyödyntää ja tehdä vähän tarkempia kysymyksiä ja saada näitä yhteistarpeita esille. Ja toivotaan, että tahoillaan kaikki näistä osapuolista myös keskenään keskustelisi tästä ja tois näitä tarpeita esille. Ja mä haluan vielä korostaa, että aktiivisesti yrittänyt esimerkiksi näiden kauppateiden alojen puheenjohtajien olla yhteydessä koittaa saada heitä löytää toivottavasti jotain edustusta tänne paikalle, vaikka ei itse pääse. Toivotaan, että myös sieltä suunnalta löytyy edustusta. Ja tää tulee vielä tosiaan erillinen ilmoittautuminen myöhemmin, toivottavasti päivänä selkeä.
Vielä sanoin Joelille, kyllä se 8 jälkeen kerkee vetää hukkaputkeen ihan hyvin läpi.
That you will still have time to go hukkaputke after 8, so don't worry. What's more is also how many members of the board can make it there.
Joo, tässä nyt tää päivämäärä ja aika ja paikka. Toivottavasti saadaan tästä ikävästä yhteenottamasta tai tästä ikävästä päivämäärän asiasta huolimatta laajasti edustusta paikalle. Se on kai
and also representatives from student associations here, regardless of the date. First time doing this. I had a workshop on the same subject a year ago. So this is different from the one held 1 year ago. Everyone comes there, tells their ideas, so it's something more concrete. It's going to facilitate it in a smart way. In order to get some more out of it than last time. Of course, I was in the workshop last year, but only kind of same more. Also hiring a professional facilitator. Those have several facilitators for the smaller groups who will focus on investment time.
Lisäksi me koettiin, että viime vuodelta niin saatiin, me edeltäjät kertoi meille, että se viestintä ei ehkä ollut ihan tehokasta, kun oltaisiin haluttu, ja ihmiset eivät ole löytänyt niitä workshoppeja. Niin me haluttiin niin lähteä tähän sille kulmalla, että kutsutaan tänne nämä tietyt ryhmät, eli Edustajiston, neuvosto ja sitten nämä AY-jaoston edustajat, ja saataisiin tavallaan tällä, että kun tehdään tämmöinen vähän keskitytämmöinen ryhmälle tänne workshop, eikä silleen avoin workshop, jota kukaan ei joka ei ole selkeästi kohdennettu, ja jos ihmiset ei ole varmoja, että mitä he saa sinne tulemalla, me halutaan panostaa siihen, että saataisiin kaikki irti näistä sidosryhmistä, jotka on meille tosi tärkeitä, ja sitten voidaan niiden perusteella lähteä kartoittamaan vielä laajemmin. Että tähän on tiedossa, että nämä ei ole aiemmin onnistunut niin hyvin, kuin olisi voinut, mutta siihen
on vielä se, että toivotaan oikeasti, että ryhmät ottaa tässä kanssa koppia siitä, että huolehditte, että teiltä joku tulee sinne paikalle. Että se voi olla yksi edustaja tai tällä että meidän on pakko rajata sitä kokoa, että me saadaan tavallaan sopivuksia ryhmiä ja tarpeeksi ei liian laaja jengi sinne paikalle, mutta että se, että olisi mahdollisimman paljon joka
but there would be as much representatives possible from as many different groups as possible. So that's the main objective. So it's really about you, the responsibility, especially for the group chairpersons, to take care that you have a representative at the seminar. Any other questions or comments? you have anything else?
Ei, tää oli.
No, this is our presentation.
Ehkä mä voin sanoa vielä tuosta tilaohjelmatyöstöasiasta, niin tosiaan tässä kevään mittaan varmaan tulee sellaista konkreettisempaa näyttävää tänne, mistä voidaan sitten keskustella. Nyt ollaan aika tiivisti sen pienemmän työryhmän kanssa tehty hommia ja saatu niin kuin ihan hyvin edistytty, mutta että vielä ei ole sellaista tavallaan konkreettista, mitä voitaisiin tuoda tänne edustajiston
concrete that we can bring to you.
Mutta kuitenkin niin kuin ollaan edetty.
But we've made progress.
Yes. Jos ei muuta, niin...
Okay, if nothing else, then...
Jos ei muuta, niin...
Closing discussion, making the decision, the proposal was that the council decided to place on record the news on the student center. It has been decided. Closing at 8, moving on to 9, updating the scholarship regulation. Pepi, if you can come here and present it. Skisma.
Siitä tuli mieleen, että se viime vuonna keskustelin tästä stipendiohjelman päivittämistä Edonin kanssa, mutta se ei koskaan ennen minnekään. Niistä ajateltiin, että isketään nyt tähän samaan settiin. Niin käytännössä siis tällä hetkellä aion yhteysstipendejä ja vaihtostipendejä ja muita vastaavia, ja niihin ei oteta huomioon se sun niin kuin hakuvuonna olevaa vapaaehtoispestiä, mitä kuitenkin keskustelussa todettiin olevan varsin huono asia, koska tavallaan se millaista niin stipendiä tarvitsisi eniten on juuri vapaaehtoisvuosi. Varsinkin yleensä mitä ihmisillä se isoin nakki on silloin viimeisenä vuonna, kun on toimii aktiivisesti vapaaehtoisena, jolloin tavallaan se olisi ehkä paras vuosi, mutta sitten tavallaan saada semmoinen niin kiitos tältä yhteisöltä. Eikä sitten vuoden jälkeen, kun mahdollisesti valmistuu siirtyy työelämään ja 500 € ehkä ihan samalla tavalla se
and finding €500 isn't that much money anymore than when studying. So for this general reason,
sitten vastakommentti, niin on ollut esimerkiksi se, että sitten ihmiset lopettaa sitten sen, niin kun tuolla huhtikuun jälkeen, siis toukokuun jälkeen, niin saa 500 € käteen ja on silleen, että niin kipparinakkelut tähän itse rahoista, mikä on kuitenkin semmoinen mielestäni yhteisökohtaan varsin halventava kommentti, koska meidän vapaaehtois on huippui, jokainen teettää oikeasti rahan takia, jos tekee, niin sitä ei uskalla yhteen esiintöihin.
Really understand that this doesn't pay that well and go get a real job. So I don't understand that people, when they stop being volunteers, it's usually because of burnout.
Ja siinä burnoutissa 500 € on kuitenkin se oikeasti kuukauden vuokra, mitä ei tarvitse stressaa, niin se ei myöskään yhtään haittaa siinä kohtaa. Joten mä en näe sitä perustetta yhteydellä, että se olisi järkevää. Sitten toinen olisi tehty tuolla puolikasta pisteytystä siitä tuolla puolesta vuodesta, mikä se on hoitanut, mutta mä näen näinkin ihan turhana lisänä tähän systeemiin. Että ihan yhtä lailla sä voit vaan ilmoittaa sen ja ottaa sen, että on aika turhaan semmoinen pistekikkailu. Niin ihan hyvin se voi ottaa sen pisteet sen playing around with the points. Käytännössä just ketkä saa ne stipendit, saa ne nyt vaan vuoden aikaisemmin, että ei sille oikeastaan ollut yhtään statusta, ketkä ne saa vaan silloin aikaisemmin, tavallaan yleensä aikaisemmin silloin, kun just niitä tarvisikin. Ja ilmeisesti hallitus on ottanut tämän pohjansa.
I think our board has also approved this, so we can kind of think on that whether it's a good proposal or not. Board, why did you approve this? Can you say something? Is this a good idea? It's sad. People don't do this for the money. So thank you very much. Very good presentation. And we really approve of this. Okay. Any other comments? Just want to say that I second this motion. If nothing else, then closing discussion, making the decision. Purpose of decided to update the scholarship regulation according to Appendix 9. This has been decided. Closing item 9, moving to item 10. Appoint the members of the Edustajiston Council for the scholarship committees.
Ja tehdään nyt tän kanssa silleen, että Hilja ensin esittelee tän homman.
So first Hilja can present this and we'll see if we can find the people for this. If we don't, then we'll have a meeting break. We're trying to see that we can find the persons, and if not, or we can have a break after this if we find the persons right away. Hello, I'm introduce myself yet. I'm Hilja Korhonen. I'm responsible for community volunteers, events and new students in the board. That's why I'll be presenting in this new kind of scholarship situation. According to our scholarship regulation, we give out 3 kinds of scholarships: exchange, community and student study scholarships. And we also appoint this kind of scholarship committees who decide who gets the scholarships. Here you can see the composition for the committees. All have a cultural producer who also acts as secretary with meetings. And a board member in charge of the issue in question. I'll be in 2 different committees myself. And then we also have the board member in charge of international affairs, that's Mikael Imatainen, to exchange scholarship. And we also need 2 members of the president council for each of the committees.
Eli käytännössä tätä haastia on menty aika paljon silleen, että on riittänyt yksi noin 4 tunnin sessio siihen, että ollaan käyty kaikki hakemukset läpi. Niihin on tosi selkeät pisteytykset, eli opintopisteet pisteytetään
study success, there's certain formula to that.
Ja sitten yhteisötoimintaan on tosi selkeä
pretty clear scoring sheet.
Että sikäli erittäin suoraviivaista.
So it's very straightforward work this.
Ja ei kai siinä muuta.
I think that's about it.
Hallituksen tietoa näihin ketään hakijoita tulee jäädä.
Hasn't been someone said that they want to be a member? No. Well, so no, please nominate someone for someone else.
Ja sitten sellainen tarkentava vielä, että yhteisö- ja opintostipendia haetaan siis vaan keväällä.
Well, we also apply for
Yksi kokous ja sitten
exchange and community scholarship, the community and study scholarship, so we have 1 meeting in spring, but the exchange scholarship is
uudestaan ja nyt keväästä sellainen, että se loppuu 12.4. se stipendien hakuaika.
The application period ends on the 18th of April,
varmasti niin
but the cultural producer will be
epäilen, että ei halua silloin ottaa asiaa pureskeltavaksi. Ja meillä on hallitus Kiinassa 2 ekaa viikkoa, eli kevään sessio menee todennäköisesti loppupuoliskolla.
So they probably held at the end of May this meeting for the committees. Yes, I nominate myself as a member to the Community Scholarship Committee. Yeah, I nominate myself for the Study Scholarship Committee. Nominate myself for the Exchange Scholarship Committee. So we have 1 person in all committees.
Jos tässä nyt ei muita nimiä ole
there are no other names.
suoraan vapaaehtoisin, niin siellä...
Yes. Still talk about the rewards. Yes, you see this huge amount of interest and the passion with which people apply for the committees. So have you talked about anything about the reward for this? Or just do you see that who can say no? Yeah, I talk about this yet that much, but we did talk about it a bit.
Ei ehditty ihan hirveän pitkälle pohdiskelemaan.
Ehkä vielä voisin sanoa, että yksi vaihtoehto on toki, että tehdään toimistolla tämä vaan virkamiestyönä ja muutetaan ohjesääntöä sen suuntaisesti.
By the office and just regulations accordingly. We have good offerings at the meetings.
Pääsihteerin ehdotus kuulostaa oikein hyvältä.
I think the secretarial proposals are very good.
Eli mehän just nyt muutettiin tätä
think we just changed the regulations for the scholarship committee. We can say that we can do this year, so please try to find the persons for it, but if we don't, we can think about it again, but now let's hold a meeting break. It's now 25 past, so we'll continue at 15:02. Group check, please come forward so we can talk about this. Meeting break.
Thank you.
Mun matemaattisen taitojen mukaan
So
meillä
with
on
my
kokemuksessa
mathematical
2
skills, we
henkilöä.
have 2 people per group.
Onko muita halukkaita näin?
Any other applicants?
Tervehenkiset vaalit tähän väliin, jos niin on kiva.
It would be like a vote would be nice. No, okay. So
Päätä aiheesta keskustelua ja
Closing
siirrytään päättämään.
the discussion and moving on to decide, the proposal was that the representative council
10 mainitulla tavalla.
decided to update the scholarship regulation and name the appoint the members as described in Appendix 9. And moving on to item 11, housing regulation. Sabella, if you may.
Moikka taas.
Hello again.
Viime kerralla päivitettiin
Last time we updated the housing regulations and we had a couple of items which could be clarified further.
Vähän
We had
vaikeasti luettavia lauseita, joissa ei ole
hard to read
ja
sentences
muuta
without
tällaista,
a main
niin mä ehtinyt nyt nämä pari
etc. So I'll
muutoskohtaa,
discern
mitä
these
siellä
proposals
olisi
for
vielä.
change.
Eli tuohon asumisen jälleenvuokraamispykälään olisi sellainen
The
tarkennus,
re-rental of apartments.
Siihen niin kuin
Clarification
kesäkuukausiin,
for the summer months.
No ensinnäkin se, että
Lastly, that
tuolloin kesäkuukausina voi vuokrata
during the summer months you can rent
eli ei tarvitse olla
to anyone, so
AYY:n
it
jäsen.
doesn't need to be a member of AYYE.
Sitten tuossa vielä laittu erikseen toi, että
And
sitten
separately from the 1st of October to the
voi
30th
vaan sitten niin kuin näistä
March
edellä mainitusta syistä, eli
onwards renting
tai
can be done,
vaihto-opiskelun
done,
takia
for example, due to exchangeships or compulsory military service. If you scroll down, you can see the grounds.
No joo, ei vissi ollut tässä kohtainen, mutta no toinen, mikä tässä oli myös, eli tässä
Another item that we
asumisoikeuden
had is that
tarkistamisesta,
the checking
mitä
on the right of
tästä
residence,
tarkentaa tonne
that should be
vielä,
clarified
eli
further.
siellä vanhana muotoiluna oli toi
The old form was that word form.
saa näkyviin.
As I can get it up here.
Joo. Okei, Annika laittoi mulle sellaisen version, missä oli ne, mutta ei se mitään.
So
Ja tosiaan tuossa oli,
the
että
old format was
milloin
that
voi irtisanoa,
when can you
niin vanhassa muotoilussa oli toi, että kun ei ole enää
agreement
ylioppilaskunnan jäsen,
is
mutta
that
tässä
when you are
menettiin
no
sitä,
longer a
että
member of
silloin
the
kun ei ole
student union?
maksanut jäsenmaksua, eli
If you're wondering on
ylioppilaskunnan
when you
jäseni
have
on tällä hetkellä vielä automaattisesti
not
kaikki
paid
Aalto-yliopistossa
your
opiskelevat,
membership
ellei
fee.
sitten ole
Currently
vaihto-opiskelija, ja sitten on
all
voinut valita tänne, että
students
onko
of the
jäsen vai
Aalto-university
ei.
are
Mutta että
members. You can't pick
sen
whether
takia
or
tuo
not.
jäsenmaksu on
So
sitten
that's why we have the
tässä
clarification of your membership fee up in
myös
place.
sitten ehkä tarkempiin muotoilusta kautta, että sit jos
More clear
joskus on tilanne,
clarifications
että
regarding
ei ole pakkojäsenyyttä,
situations where
niin silloin tämä jäsenmaksu on
if we come to the situation where we
peruste
don't have
sitten
a compulsory membership, that will mean that the membership fee is the
olla
grounds
asua
for
AY-asuntolossa.
right of residence in an AYYE apartment.
Sitten oliko siellä vielä? Joo. Ei tainnut olla, eli käytännössä tarkennettiin
Certainly
kesä
not. So
jälleenvuokraamiskohtaa.
we clarified the further rental and paying of the membership fee currently.
Ei ollut muutoksia, että vaan niin kuin
So now the changes have been
tarkempia
made at this
muotoiluja.
stage, but rather clarifications and lettering to the point. Questions or comments? So, in 4 out of 2018, the European Council decided to revise the decision made on its meeting 4 2018 according to the Appendix 10, closing item 11 and moving on to item 12, updating the acknowledgement regulation. We'll have Matilla Sade and Petteri Helistä presenting. Thank you. So Petteri will be presenting the SKISMA proposal and the board will give their own template and if needs be, we'll vote on between the two. Hello everyone.
Hopefully
you all read our emails and the Facebook postings on the subject.
Halutaan siis tosiaankin Skisman kanssa nostaa noita huomionosoituksen tai kahden huomionosoituksen
raise the acknowledgement borders and maximums due to the experience that with the current amounts it's hard to reward active people working in the Aalto community. Last year I noticed, back then I was the vice chair of the board and also the acknowledgement work group chairperson, and we needed to leave really good people out of the people who would have deserved a reward or an accolade, even when we actually went over the board with the regulated amounts, even though that when we went past it, we didn't really want to go too much past it, it still wasn't enough. We also do not believe that if we raise these amounts, we'd have lots of inflation, but I believe that with these amounts that we are proposing, it's that with these people, they would be received by people who'd done an amazing amount of work. So we've had, for example, 45 people who've done amazing and big jobs during their Aalto career. I wouldn't actually say that I would give an award for each and every one of you, but okay. And this from the board, we got a template which differed from our template a bit, but they lowered the community badge from 15 to 12 and the other minimum to 6. To start with, we've been focused on maximums, not minimums, so I'll say that we and Sade will retract our proposal and we will go with the board's template. We agree with Skisman with the grounds on why this increase is prudent. Do we have a better microphone? At least we have a working microphone. We wanted to actually get more structure regarding the old policy paper, so the minimums that we've proposed, which would be 12 and 6. These are the old maximums, and the proposal that we have 12 to 20 community badges and honorary badges from 6 to 10, and mention stay as is at 3. And I'll be honest, we discussed that at this stage we don't have the time to ponder on this, to add any badge of merit. So it wouldn't be at least in time for this year. So with a quick change, we can just make a quick revision and then take more time to actually think of the possibility of adding a new badge of merit. So now that these names changes, are we going to open up the proposals for people who should reserve accolades and badges of merit and honor? We discussed this originally. No, we have not. We hope that people have proposed these people that they've wanted to propose, regardless of how many accolades and acknowledgements we have up for grabs, as it were. Can I comment on the template? You were not present when we discussed white noise. You were not in the meeting present when we discussed this. So if we open it up now, it will actually postpone the work groups past, and we can't send the invitations to the annual poll in time if we open it up again at this stage. But yes. But this is kind of an operative action that actually does not pertain to this item, what's being decided. I have wished to reiterate that I was in a flu during the meeting, that's why I was not present. Any questions, comments on the proposals for change for this item? No? So, closing the discussions and moving to decide, the proposal was that the Representative Council decided to update the acknowledgement regulation according to Appendix 11, decided as per the template of the board. Thank you to the presenter. Then, closing item 12 and moving on to item 13, preliminary discussion on the policy paper reform. All right. So, so, to the main topic of the day. Everybody's still perked and preppy. Yes, I can see a lot of enthusiastic faces. We have a system crashed. Tell a joke. Why did the chicken go across the Mobius strip? To get to the same side. Enthusiastic golf clapping. This was from Johanna Pietiläinen, this joke. Let's see, hope it translates. And the chairperson does not remember how the joke goes. What is grey looks like a wolf, but is not a wolf. No, it's going wrong. So I'll tell it like this. So what's grey and looks like a wolf, but it's not a wolf? A chicken. No. No, it's not Roy. No, it's a wolf. That was even more terrible than the last joke. Please move forward, the interpreter doesn't want to interpret jokes. This is terrible. Okay, now the system is back online. Please present. So now we can actually get to the item in question, if you don't have any good jokes. Please no. Good. So start off with, what is a policy paper? A policy paper is an AYYE opinion. And the important thing to note is that you might have opinions that you can't really do anything about actively. AYYE also has these, same as you. It may be that we have a policy paper that gives us our opinion, but we are not actively pursuing any goal regarding that opinion. We have the other documents that actually tell what we do. We have strategy, we have an action plan, we have an office program. These documents reiterate what we do. We do priorization and out-priorization and thinking on where we place our chips, as it were. So, in a policy paper, we can form an opinion, we have the right to dream, we can search for a perfect world, but in practice we can actually understand the realities of everyday work and when we want to advocate. Can I get the next slide? So, do we have anything else? No? Clicker is not working. There we go. So, here is our starting position. We have 12 policy papers that amount to a total of 35 pages of text in 12 documents. And the second bullet point is that what we started from is that some policy papers are in contradiction with each other or dated. And this sparks from this project started from. The last bullet is important since that the group chairperson said that we should reiterate this at this point, that we have the need for new policies. We're not just updating old policies, we need new policies. It's already inbuilt in this project. It comes from the action plan approved by you. It states that the current policies are not considered adequate and enough. Whatever we decide today, whatever we discuss today, actually not decide, whatever comments we have, we will have new policies and new openings, new fields. For example, art political policies. We are an arts political student union, but we don't actually have an opinion on that on a societal level. And then the question of the day. So 2 questions. And the notes go so to the song that first I will present to the question, give a presentation from the memo, go through the scenarios, after which we'll have the discussion regarding the question, and then we'll have closed ballot vote over all 3 scenarios. About 3 votes per question. And then we will move to the second part, how to be draft in, presentation, discussion, closed ballot. And at the end we have more time for feeling discussion if you want to give more points to the preparation work. After the preliminary discussion, this will be happening regardless. That's on the board. You will receive, based on this preliminary discussion, a project plan and a timetable. At that stage you may ask on why we've chosen X, Y and Z, and why timetable is X, Y and Z, and then we'll give grounds for those. Based on the preliminary discussion, we will give grounds to our decisions. Then we'll start to implement the program and, of course, give you news along the process. Any questions at this stage for the first 4 slides? Anything that was unclear? Good. Moving on to the first questions. What kind of a system do we want to have in place? We have in the memo, we have these base models. I'll go these one at a time. So first off, we'd have 1 policy paper. Strengths that we saw, it was clear. Clarity and transparency comes from that anybody who takes the paper in their hands knows that this has all the answers, all policies, none outside it. It will get kind of a general picture really clearly on what AYYE thinks about the issue. It's easy to update and easy to use. If you want to update our policies on a theme, it's that this whole paper will come on the agenda, and at this stage it's really natural to place other updates as well at the same time. On the weaknesses, of course, that does one format suit all themes? The sectors have different needs. It's like, but the format might not be completely optimal for each and every theme on a singular level. And this format also rushes things to, well, make a system. Like, if you see that we have 35 pages of material currently, if you can see it as 1 policy paper, we'll have to keep it more concise and more surface level. A lack of concreteness is a possible risk. On the process and the point of view, it requires a lot of work to put together, basically because this model is the furthest away from the current situation, but it's easy to update once we have it in place. Then the second model would be one policy paper with theme-based programs. From this we have similar strengths. The one policy paper model is that the general policy is in one document, but with the possibility to gain a more detailed level on the thematic programs. When you take the paper, you know that here we have the general policies. You get kind of a good basic picture on what AYYE thinks about things. But it's flexible based on thematics. We can go to a more concrete level on a certain theme and make kind of a program paper about that. But on the weaknesses, it could be one of the weaknesses, it's possibly messy. Thematic additions can become overshadowed by the policy paper. It's not as easy to receive a general picture on what AYYE thinks about an issue. Another risk is the possibility of overlapping contents and internal conflict in the material, because we have the thematics that might be updated singularly, which means that we don't go through the entirety, we just update one thing at a time, which might lead to overlapping or internal conflict. Then on the process, on a position of view, a point of view, it's easy to create by utilizing the current documents. We can get these policies from our current papers pretty easily, but it's hard to update and maintain, especially if comparing to one policy paper. These thematics might be something like are just hanging around and they need to be kept up to date. Then third option is theme-based policy papers, which is the current situation that we are using now. Strengths are, of course, policy creation based on operational needs and flexibility. When we need to create a policy on something, we write the document in the exact format that is correct for that theme, approve it at the Representative Council, and that when we have a policy paper, presto, enables detailed and program-oriented policies, because we are not constrained by the unified policy of the theme of the policy papers. Weaknesses is, of course, that the entirety is hard to control. Like if we update something very easily, we don't actually check out like, oh, would we need to update this or that? And when we have this one paper that's up for update, we wouldn't want to bring all the others in because of one small change. So a possibility of being messy. Might not be easy to find answers for individual questions. It might be hard and a bit unclear, and well, what policy paper should I look at? Then the individual policy papers getting outdated fast means that it has a short lifespan. When we go to a more detailed level with policy papers, because we kind of have the space in the document, then it means that we write up things that are short-lived. And then also, which shortens the lifespan, is that we might have processes like this. Like we discussed, like we need to do a more massive update to get the entirety back on track. A risk is overlapping contents and internal conflict in the text as well. Is one of the risks. Like when we update something, we should need to update everything, or at least some parts. Point of view in the process is that it's the easiest, because no specific costs to implement, because it only requires updating the current policy papers, so it's pretty close to what we have now, and adding new policy papers to fold to the items we yet don't have a policy on. So that was the presentation on the three scenarios. Then we would have the discussion. Here's the topic. What kind of fold or array of policy papers do we want? Do you want me to come forward? A short comment. In my opinion, for ease of use and flexibility, item 1 would be really smart, that we have one coherent policy paper. You can make it concise, so it's not 35 pages, but rather a bit shorter. Generally, it would be a problem that it would be maybe too general. As a current access user of policy papers, it's kind of hard to get these broad strokes lines from the current policy papers, and maybe getting like you can get the broad strokes item, but you really can't get the item that you're looking for. Like say, for example, student choices. Like we'd say, like student choice would be X, Y, and Z, or you could maybe utilize that. Heliste in his short comment said that item 1 policy paper would be good, and reiterated that generalness is a good thing. It would be easy to use with these general policies that can be used to derive more detailed results from. If you have comments or short comments there, one phrase. And Sandri, you come to the fourth if you have a short, concise comment. Yep, okay, I'll come fourth. It's a babble. There's also a lot of noise. Rarely people say that I don't have the voice. Okay, yes, I'm in the wrong spot. We at Luova discussed that we discussed these options, and we ended up in the same grounds. That just meant that one policy paper would be good. We were a bit perplexed over this item 2, where we had these thematics. We had a kind of a really different definition of thematics. We didn't see them as kind of mirroring the old policy papers. We kind of saw them as strategic models for implementation that have a different focus and function than the general policy paper. So in some levels it would be good to take things to a more detailed level, but this amount of document should be kept more concise than the amount of documents we currently have in specific policy papers. Thus, you shouldn't really compare them to the current array of policy papers. So I'm a bit kind of torn between 1 and 2 in the options. Just one big policy paper would be good, but we need some clarifications as well. Maybe strategies, other action plans and ideas are needed. I could also clarify a bit. So the idea is not that we'll take kind of this thematic base that we'll have a plan for new students and then we have all the issues dotted down, but rather that generic points about new students are in the policy paper, but in the thematic we can define, for example, details or some concrete goals, or say that we would like a regulation change of exactly this type, or etc., etc. If we want kind of a legal legislation change pertaining to new students, so we could have the thematic word form that we actually want. Okay, Joel, followed by Aro.
The advantage and with that one policy paper would be good because it's clearer and you can see that things find things faster from that. We talked about the entire like for example 3 big entities like wholes under which all of these will be, so we'll be able to specify it more in detail, the division in the policy paper. Yes, if we were doing just one policy paper, there will be different sections and subheadings, themes within, so it's possible to divide it that way. It's also smart to do that. So please the next, if you come here. Yes, I agree with the previous speaker, that one plus paper would be very good. And there's a comment that in order to make it more user-friendly, it would be good if it would have, like they have in Tampere, like this kind of a summary at the beginning, where you can find the policies on a very general level. And that way we could also manage to reduce the number of pages. It makes the Repression Council members work easier, because now the number of pages really prevents the new members of the council or other members to find out more about policy papers. So please make just one policy paper. That would be the best option. I think that everyone pretty much agrees. Wants one policy paper. Does anyone disagree? Does anyone want to discuss about some other alternative? Do you want to comment on this kind of a summary? Yes, this was the Influencer Advocacy Committee. Just discussed that Tampere had a very nice summary. I don't see why we couldn't do that ourselves too. Yes, I'm from Skismo. I think that 1 and 2 have both of the good sides, but please put them at least in one place. Like one document where you can find them all at the same time, that you're the wonder that where to find all this kind of other shit. It's a very good comment. There's no other request for floor, so please last request for floor during this comment. So, yes, our proposal is very good. It's great if they'd be in one place while developing our administration. There's Jure from Aalto. It's good to try to have as few documents as possible, so that we don't have this kind of labyrinth where we might find the exit. It's good to have a minimal number of documents, but if there's some kind of topic that really needs that we need to take a more a stand on it, then it would be wise to do kind of another separate document that would discuss it more in detail instead of it being part of the same whole. And it's also wise, useful, if you can see that how are these different documents linked to each other. But if you want to take a stand on some issue, then it would be wise to also include other documents besides the one policy paper. Stop someone to comment and a short question. Apparently this one big policy paper would be more condensed. Why can't it be just all policy papers together as a big document? Well, it can, but then we can get the benefits that we're trying to achieve with it. Format guides it, steers it. Also kind of just a human issue that if you see so many pages at once, then many people just sort of think that could this be condensed a bit? And that's one of the objectives of that scenario. That we wanted to make more condensed, more general. There was still time reserved for general discussion of these items. So should we move forward? And then we have these slip votes. First between the extremes, the options on the board, also the colors. So one paper is blue, several papers is red. You choose between the two. Which would you rather choose? So now everyone have their slips. Yes, as is ready, so please, let's slips up now. And Nico will take a photo. Yes, maybe Secretary General can note down that everyone showed the blue slip. Just took a selfie. That's very clear. Let's move on to the next vote. So, just think a while between these, which one to vote. When I say the magic word, please raise your slips. Just looking like that everyone's ready, so please raise your slips. Excellent documentation of the event has been done. Then the last question. Isn't this? This will be a bit more challenging, but let's go through with this. These are the alternatives. Which would you prefer? Why have you put these against each other? What's going on? Okay, please raise your slips. Secretary General, let's document it. Thank you. And the next section. How to involve people. First I will present different groups which we'll talk about. First we have the office. The office does work and it costs money, so involving the office is office has to do work. And only the background memo, what do you think also about the cost side? Does the Secretary General want to comment? So we will assess that to describe to you that how much work does some things generate. And the estimate was that holding one involving workshop will take about 7.5 hours, so 1 working day for 1 worker. And this includes the planning, holding the workshop, and the after debriefing. And then we estimated that making kind of a content-wise policy paper, it takes about 20 working hours, because it involves many workers. And in the process, at least we must involve the experts and the members of the board. But then about some volunteers, involving them. It's easy to involve some volunteers, some that are very close to the office, work in close cooperation with them, and then we have groups that have a good general understanding of the subject, so we don't need to familiarize them more with the subject. We can move on to the discussion with these groups. And the good thing about volunteers is that there are many diverse views from different schools. And also we have that, for example, studies and social policy councils, because they have a regular meeting, so it's easy to do a workshop there, for example, about the policy paper reform. And these are volunteer groups that are not that familiar with the policy papers, the current state. It would take more effort to involve them and to organize, facilitate an event for them. So we have to familiarize them with the issue before discussion. Then they represent the council, of course. It represents the members in a very diverse way and makes the final decision. So it will be very important in the process that no matter how this process is taken through, the end result must be that the representing council feels that this policy paper corresponds with your views and your opinions, because the intention of the policy papers is to guide the office's work and it's a tool for the representing council. And important point that we have the advocacy committee, which would be a very good tool to involve the representing council. We already have this kind of a predefined meeting times where we could discuss this. And then involving the members. We talked about this kind of a representing council is representative democracy, but now we have this direct democracy if we involve the members. Well, the benefit is that we could get kind of opinions or views outside the box from the members. That kind of the more active people don't know about. But on the other hand, there's a very wide group of people, and to have a kind of a very good opinion that represents everyone's views, getting that would be very difficult. Because we already have the representing council which represents the members, it may be the case that the added value from this would be pretty small compared to the effort. Then we have 3 models that you have in the memo also. So we'll vote between these soon. One would be that the kind of lean process, that the office will prepare it. We will do the process with the workers and the board and bring the ready proposal to the representing council. This is also for the usage of worker resources. This takes the less, so it also costs the least. And we estimated that if we go with the more straightforward process, then a chance to get the process finished at the end of May. This reform. The next option would be kind of a light involvement, involving representing council, volunteers and our members lightly into the process. And this would mean that, well, there's the advocacy committee, the student council, which are groups that are already familiar with the subject and who hold regular meetings, and the issue is easy to discuss with them. So it would be, we could hold workshops with them. And for other groups, it would be more like kind of digital platforms we could use to involve them, like doing surveys and things like that. And the estimate for this would be that it would be finished by the end of October. The advocacy committee discussed the issue. Nico might tell you more about it later. That's what the committee thought about it. There's a proposal that one policy paper iteration with the advocacy committee after the board is happy with the result. It will be in the same category, that if we only involve the advocacy committee, not volunteers for example, it could be done earlier than in October. So we will go through with this lean process and use the advocacy committee, involve them. It's kind of between the option 1 and 2. And the last option, intensive involvement. Which would mean that the representing council members and volunteers would be involved, or would be involved in, shall we try to get everything we can out of them. So I think that we can get some useful input from them, then we'll try to find it, seek for it actively. And this would also mean that the current resources at the office would not be enough, and we had to recruit an intern or a project worker who works part-time. This intern or part-time project worker, we estimated that the costs for that would be for 3 months about 35 to 50 100 euros. Of course, it would also use the current resource at the office much more if we select alternative 3. And this estimate is that it will be finished by the end of the year, the policy paper with this option. And please discussion and questions on the scenarios. We'd also gladly go through the housing and campus policy papers if you involve us. Because repeat the comment was that the Real Estate and Finance Committee would also gladly take part for the campus and the real estate policy papers they reform. We want this to be led by the office because they have the expertise on this and it will be done more efficiently. But also that we would lightly involve the Representation Council. We suggested a process where the board's proposal would come first for comment to the Representation Council group, then the AYYE will hold a meeting, comment to the board, and the board will modify it based on the comments, and then we will bring it to the Representation Council meeting. In order to involve the Representation Council members, but so that we can have more efficient time usage here in the big hall, because we're not the ones who write the thing. It should be done by the office, yes. That's how we talk about this. But what we will have the first alternative, it sounds very bad. The Representation Council is not involved, especially when we want to author draft new policies. So it's not a very rational way to bring it straight just to the Representation Council without us having the chance to influence. And this is our policy paper reform, so I'm scared that people talk too much about money. I hope that money is not the reason why we don't want to involve the members and volunteers, because although it costs a lot, would cost a lot for students, it's a really small amount of money for us, and democracy is expensive, but it's an intrinsic value. And I'm criticizing this bringing money into this discussion, because it shouldn't be kind of any kind of reason, and I hope no one makes any decisions based on that we will send a couple of thousand euros for AYYE. And then we decide on the policy paper. This is all the work that we do, all our values. I think it's very important that we ask everyone, we can do this too openly or too inclusively. So that's why I think this option 3 is also pretty light. So really we just need to involve everyone. It's a long process. It also needs to be a long process. We're reforming all of our policies. This is just not a quick update. I've read our policy papers and we can reform them down just by having a quick fix. Because this should be a long process. And we should hear everyone along the process. Yes, it's good to continue from that. I agree that definitely we need to listen to our members, because this doesn't just represent what we think, or what the board or the office represents, even less. Because office has been selected like through 2 instances to do the operations for the student union. It's been selected by Representative Council, which has been selected by the members, and the members are the ones whose opinions we need to get on paper. And I hope that before board writes anything, any kind of template, that we'll ask our members that what kind of things they want to have a policy on the members, what kind of opinions they have on different issues, and how these should be presented in the policy paper. Then we can bring these issues for comment to the Representative Council, and after that I hope that the board will start doing the actual writing work. Also after this writing work, I hope that it will be brought back to the Representative Council, maybe through committees or to the meeting for comments, and then we can start doing the actual decision-making process. But as many involved rounds as possible, it needs to start at the grassroots level, because as I said, we're a small group of the student union, and policies represent the entire student union. Yes, thank you. I was thinking myself that it's kind of a phrasing between the intensive and what was the middle option? The light involvement and not involvement actually at all. So about this selection of words, the phrasing, as light and intensive, pretty kind of a confusing, even when we're talking about more kind of a wider, that how wide we want the involvement to be. And we can involve very widely people, like Pepe and Sameli said, but but it can be in different levels the intensity, that how many rounds we will do, and we will bring it out with everyone what we ended up discussing about that. If our members disagree with our board and representative council, it's kind of a continuous topic of discussion also outside these meetings. So that's why I think this is very good if we could also involve the members directly into the discussion. But then the question of how can we make some conclusions or results from this very wide discussion, that's another thing entirely, and that's when we think that then that involvement is probably not very intensive that we do towards the members. But for the Representative Council definitely needs to be involved in the preparation more comprehensively, and I think that YYYE had very good suggestions, but I think that all three committees need to be involved in the preparation of the policy paper, because they all have their own views on different issues. So that's why I don't see that there are a lot of comments on specific things, but I think it would be nice if all three committees could read through the paper carefully and also be part in the preparation process. So I think that was the points. Yes.
So comment on the name choices. I agree with the choice of names. I'm not happy that we ended up with light and intensive as the chosen forms. If we maybe made a picture to show what these scenarios really look like, would have been maybe happier. On that broadness could be a better choice of word. Intensive turn aimed more so towards the reason that in this light option you would have the option to draft in the member base, and from a preparatory point of work it's based on around that how intensively we are drafting in the member base, because drafting in the member base at this stage would mean a Google form, a questionnaire form, and in this intensive this would mean facilitated workshops. You're next. From Kulttuurirengas. Representative democracy is in place for a reason, so I don't feel it sensible that we dismantle it for a process like this. Here at the Representative Council we have people that we don't have everybody here but we have people who are interested, who have more input. We have even more input from the office on everyday work to prepare this. It's very important that we listen to our members, that we listen to our volunteers, but it's better that we've done so, that we deal in a clinical and concise manner, and we discuss the issues that arise, that we utilize the committees, eases the progress of the work immensely, and then that we can hear the voice of the members during the process. Martin Santeri proposed that we should use all the committees, more the merrier, but if we in this work we can get the voice of the entire member base, and rather not use 5 hours here at the Representative Council for one small detail would be more sensible, in my opinion, for the entire process. So I'd say that. As an addition, I would see that the intensity would actually raise to the office level, where they do most of the preparatory work, and when we draft in the member base lightly, this would be the idea. But the biggest ball to catch would be on the inside of the office. Yeah, I probably won't reiterate something about catching balls. So, reiterating the same item once again. Can't remember what our brand says about this issue. Hope that people heard it. Yes, so hello guys and gals. I personally do not believe that these 3 models create different results, but rather we have an important difference in that they create the feeling of participation. There was this nice word that I had, because I forgot it because I hadn't had to be here up front, but the feeling of ownership was the word I was looking for. That if the whole member base is drafted in and they can say their part and say their piece and say their opinions, they feel that these AYYE policies are their policies rather than something that comes from above. And they answer one Google form, and even though the people who see the Google form and take the time to answer that. But in my opinion, especially when we are living in a time like we need to detach ourselves from AYYE, we need to create a sense of ownership to AYYE's policies, and that's only possible with item 3, with item 2 more than 1, because I'd say that item 1 is just a bit queer, because the member base wouldn't feel that these policies are theirs, so I'd say between 2 and 3. Me and Skisma discussed a lot. We feel that we would like to approach it from between 1 and 2. We believe that representative democracy, that what we've done, we've chosen here, and through this we can channel the will of the member base to the best of their ability on how the world should be. Of course, we take a serious stance on the points that's been said about drafting in the members, the feeling of ownership that was mentioned. But I feel that, for example, web queries and web questionnaires are never perfect, but I'd say that with a single web questionnaire can have as big a reach as a workshop event that we organize. We at Aalto have a lot going on. And there's be it a campus sauna event or etc., whatever the event may be, the people who are interested will find their way there. I'd say that this policy paper update won't be a great public spectacle that would cause people to actually arrive there, that differentiates it from all of our other events. I hope, of course, that we can start this work with an open Google form to gather topics or concrete ideas on what it might say. We have this the board who are the godmothers and godfathers of our special status associations, so maybe utilize those or those venues. But the intensive work will focus, in my opinion, to the committees and the representative council, and of course the office and the board and staff. I hope that you don't have to work through the weekend, at least too often. No other requests for the floor, so when somebody is speaking, please submit yours. First, I'd like to thank Ida for a good point, kind of took all my points there. Well, not all of them. That I want to reiterate is that listening to the member base is not demeaning representative democracy, it's strengthening. A person who represents other people has the responsibility to listen to those people. And through this, I think that as representative council members, we don't walk around and ask for people's opinions. The board has the responsibility to do this, to get our members involved. To Petter's comment, I would like to say that, of course, web questionnaires will reach more people, but web questionnaires in a workshop answer a different requirement of advocacy. And both are important, which is why we need to organize both of them. In the workshop we'd have lots more different ideas, that people discuss ideas rather than people are sitting on their computers on their own and filling up Google Forms. I hope we use as many as possible in means of ways of gaining information, not advocating before to enact this work. But of course the representative council is the organ of trust that is being involved and drafted in most. That's why we're here. But we don't have all the answers that the members have. Thus it would be the responsibility of the board to ask the member base what they actually want and what they know. Thank you. A few phrases comment there that, for example, in the student center workshop, it's a lot more efficient to contact our members online rather than have these singular workshops where these same people that kind of hang around here. So what you all commented best, like even if people do not participate in the student center workshop, I dare say they wouldn't be there for the policy paper workshops. That'd be the same people that would be involved in the committees or the representative council or other parties. I think this policy paper update is something that we need to do as a representative council. That's our job. But what we're kind of doing, this kind of big change, these policy papers, it's our opportunity to ask the member base, what do you feel about this? What do you feel about that? And what do you think that we should add to our values? This is why we need to stay up to date. Best this is done by doing web surveys. Maybe we can organize a workshop, but I don't feel that the value of a workshop would be big enough. I want that we get a maximal input from the member base, as little work as possible or easily as possible, and let's make it easy for them to participate. So I'd say a sensible option would be that start up with a query, a questionnaire, put it up, people answer it, the board and the office will make all the policy papers, gather them up, and based on this do whatever they do and put this to the committees. Then they bounce it back with changes, after which it can be changes to the board and then to the representative council. We need to remember that I don't see it actually very prudent that we force it to the goal really fast. We could just rather say like, okay, here are our proposal. Do we have other proposals to change? If yes, okay, let's return it to sender, return to preparation. I think discussing time in this option is a bit pointless and not actually prudent to the matter at hand. I wish to say at this stage, I don't know that this microphone is here up front, but really, really good request for the floor. It's nice that you're doing this. Very nice. Keep up the good work. Kind of a interim thumbs up. No other request for the floor can be taken for the general discussions. I think the people are kind of mixing things. That we are drafting in the Reps and Council doesn't mean that we discuss or decide these at the meetings and the detailed discussion. What could be the structure of the individual phrase? This doesn't make any sense on anybody's point. But we comment, we ask for comments, like I liked 2 years ago when we did the SUL policy paper update. So make a kind of a query where we find out the requirements, what is being wanted to change, what do we want to keep, after which make kind of a template, send it to comments, then the groups read it, do proposals for change, place these on Excel, and then we send the Excel to Kello, and then the Kello goes over the Excel and change the template, and then we change the restructured template, and depending on how many times we want to do this, we do this, and then we'll check the comments, and at this stage we get the final form that'll be decided to approve. And at this stage we can also approve changes. And then when we do it, people have a lot of opinions. There will be things that won't be on the template, that want to be returned to preparation. I can't see, and I don't want that. If we, in a perfect world, we can get it in one round, but probably not. So it's awesome that we have an active representative council that would actively want to be creating a paper that represents us. So that's something I would wish to see. And that would be actually drafting in the Representative Council, not to just discuss phrases here, but actually affect things, feel that it's ours, and to affect the parties, send it to commentary, and at some stage, or at least in the beginning, do something that we can end up with a product that really truly looks like us. So the Representative Council needs to take a broad as possible stance. So we can comment the issue, and all the other parties can comment as well. There's another good point, that this will never kind of be ready. It can re-update it and re-update it again and again. So we just need a template and kind of a structure and a route level. And this doesn't stop our activities, even if we wouldn't be able to ready this by the end of spring. To say that it's completely possible to have a meeting where the only item on the agenda is this, like we don't have to do other items, we can just focus on one thing. Nico has a quick comment. Waiting for the reiteration from the Vice President. Chair. The Advocacy Committee proposal included the option that we draft the Representative Council parties, not just the committee. Continuing. So, then we'd have a voting slip ×3, as you know. First up, start with the opposite ends of the table. Think. Get your papers up. The options are between the office doing the planning work and intensive drafting. Raise your slip high up. The arm starts from the shoulder, not the elbow.
Nikos snapped the photo, thank you. Then next, that the office prepares versus the light involvement of members. But to choose between the two, which one? So they're ready, it looks like it. This last slips up now. Yes, excellent. And the last one, light involvement and intensive involvement. please raise the rest of the slips too. Excellent, thank you. Yes, good. Agree with Norre. Thanks for the comments, especially about the involvement. It's very valuable comments when doing the preparatory work. It's good to start from here. But I hope that if you still have anything to say to us, especially for the project plan and project schedule, that was a good time to have your say. Quick comment, thank you for really clear slides. They really helped it go through the issue and the vote. Thank you. It's kind of a bit wrong to repeat this, but thank you for the clear slides that made the voting easier. Looks like that there are no other requests for floor for general discussion, so thank you. So if nothing else to say, then move on to the decision. Of course, in these three options, they really don't actualize what would be the best way to involve members. So please don't give these sleep votes as tight instructions as it seemed. Somebody said, and few people supported him, that maybe you shouldn't take these slip votes, especially for the involvement part, take as a concrete guide, because the three scenarios don't cover everything about the complex issue. And also a comment to Sameli that yes, of course we know that the three scenarios were created to create at least some kind of a general picture of how people's opinions are divided on the subject. But we recognize that creating the scenarios from such a complex issue is very challenging. And this is a preliminary discussion, we are not deciding anything yet. Yes, once at that point the Representative Council votes, then we respect the Representative Council's decision on the matter. Juri said that when the Representative Council votes on something, it hopes that this decision is respected. It's a nice starting point. Yes. The grey area is very wide here, but of course we'll take both the votes and the comments into account. And after this, no more comments, please, unless you have something very revolutionary to say. I think this project would be ambitious. That will create this kind of ideal situation. We want to make strong policies and hope that we'll adhere to our strategy about social influencing, because we are a social filter of influence in society. We hope that we'll be ambitious in the project and actually take a stand on issues, making that sort of incremental changes that look at the current state and then think what will be the next small step forward. But let's go boldly to dream and to try to find our dream world. Somebody, and please now the last comments during this. I'm here, so I doesn't to repeat it. But yeah, I agree with Yuri that of course the Representative Council's will must be respected. But in this kind of preliminary votes, you should always keep in mind that if you really want the Representative Council's own will, the Representative Council should make the alternatives for the votes, because now they're being created for us, they are not proposals from us, so they're not kind of representative of our will. what we want. So you shouldn't really fixate too much on these, on what the document now says about the voting options. What was the previous speech about? Yes, Peppi. Yes. Excellent. I agree that we shouldn't fixate ourselves on what's the kind of a state of the real politics, because we are now creating our vision of what the world would be that AYYE wants to create. And after that we can come up with the steps that how to achieve this world, this kind of state. But if you think that should student financial aid be 250 or 252 euros, that's not that's important. We should think more of like of the big policies that were which direction we should take the financial aid. I'd like to remind you that because we can really take it literally, these votes, it's very important that we have our people's comments on the stream, that we can also transmit it. If there's any long comment like Emmy has coming up next, no pressure. Well, 3 elections coming in 2 years, and it's important that AYYE has policies that we can follow, that we can do advocacy work in the elections. Em said that in worst case scenario we have 3 elections coming up in the next 2 years, and it will be important to get our policies in order to know what kind of things we want to influence in the elections. Any other comments? Myself, that very well prepared top-room discussion, and Tapio will, if you have any worries, troubles, opinions, if someone thinks that kind of one pulse paper is really bad, Tapio will be happy to hear your comments, also outside this meeting. So involvement doesn't have to be that in kind of steps, it can be continuous. But if no other requests for floor, closing the discussion. Proposal was to represent council decide to place a record the discussion on the subject. Do we have a few minute break? Do we got other business? 5-minute break? No, it's unneeded. We were running out of air. How many people want to take a break? I think that's enough, so 5 minutes max. Did anyone leave during the break? I think 2 or 3 people did. Apparently everyone is here. Yes, everyone is here. Moving on to item 14, continuing the meeting. Any other business? To present. Please come forward. What did AYYE take stand on the strikes, university strikes? Why didn't AYYE take stand on the university strikes? Yes, we thought about it, followed the situation, and the strikes didn't come to pass. So that's why we didn't take a stand. Our consensus was that we would have communicated to our members, at least if the strikes would have been realized, but we didn't see that we were taking any sides in that. It's something between the door. If there's someone in there, isn't going to do it? Yes. Thank you. Hello, Henri Miettinen from Vihreämpi Aalto. Talk about the same issue as in the previous meeting, that is equality and its importance. A few words about somebody's post on our Represent Council's Facebook group this week. As many of us know, there's a long history in Aalto-Uniemi about associations that discriminate people based on their gender. A few years ago, these associations operate activities that everyone could take part regardless of gender. Well, almost everyone. As most of all know, we still have associations that discriminate based on gender that the student union supports by renting facilities and giving visibility to them. I think this is very weird, taking into account 3 things. 1. In AYYE's policies about giving out spaces is that a facility cannot be given to an association that discriminates members based on their gender. 2016, in the equality report, it stated that what the student union association do to promote equality, the most mentions was that to take a stand on, for example, associations activities that discriminate women. In our office program, we have said that, based on the equality survey, that we should tackle these issues mentioned in the report. Currently, student union acts contrary to their own beliefs, doesn't follow the recommendation of the report, and doesn't enact one of the actions stated in their office program. And one thing that we need a student union is to extend because the individual members of associations don't have enough power to influence the matter. When I first heard about this myself, that as kind of a world campus or innovative university, that is student union still supports associations that discriminate people based on their gender, I was shocked. I was still shocked in 2018 that some people's chances to be part in student culture are dependent on their gender. It's prohibited in the Finnish constitution. And I hope that the board and the office will make us a plan on what schedule can AYYE start acting according to their own beliefs and principles. I hope that no one wants to support such discriminatory action, and I hope that no freshman has to face a disappointment because of their gender. Comments? Let's give me applause. comments? Yes, please come forward. Yes, please, across the floor. Was asked about schedule, the office, and the schedule should be now, this spring. We wanted to tackle this issue now. We hoped that for long these operations would fix themselves, but it's always taken a step backwards. Because now in Julkku, for example, women are not involved in the making of the magazine anymore. And when you see that these operations are not going to change, AYYE should cut all ties to this kind of activity and should demand the same from the university. This is not the activity that we can approve, but it's a mistake that we can still fix. Secretary General, do you want to comment? No? Hello, like I mentioned that just the fact that someone's post doesn't have any comments how diverse this issue is, because people thought inside different groups but not within the Representative Council, because this came just out of the blue. That has any Representative Council member or the AYYE office been in contact with this party before starting to drive this issue forward after 2.5 years. And also there are very different operators working here since it's been 2.5 years. I could say that have you activated all kinds of parties? Have you had any discussion on the subject? That why should it be right now? Was there a couple of years' time to do this, do something about it, to create this kind of culture and do something with the magazine? But now suddenly we have the urgent need to cut everything without any kind of discussion. There were some members here who are studying at Aalto the last time we talked about this issue. If something is wrong, we can tackle the issue immediately and not think that when to do it. As a quick comment, I have to remind everyone that there are also associations that discriminate men, because it is now a worry for keeping a target on a particular association. Yes, and Henry. Yes, I go forward. The point that why is now the time for it, I think it's very weird, because there are these three principles that I mentioned that have been with AYYE for a long time at the office. There will be time to do something on the issue, but no one has done it. And now it's better than ever. When would be a better time? It's always a bad time to do something if it is seen as a difficult thing to do. Another comment, that if AYYE supports associations that discriminate women, that we should recognize to all associations that discriminate people based on their gender, regardless of the association. I just don't know of those associations. If the associations are, I also want to see that they are not supported with our money. And then Jure. Yes, I assume that these why now questions, and that why I posted on this on Monday, the Representative Council group, because it was the day of equality, and I thought that what are the things that should be done for equality. In 2.5 years, nothing has been done about the issue. So I think it's high time to do something about it. If in our community there is a discrimination based on gender, then we can just expect that something maybe happens in another 2.5 years. We have to do something about it. We have clear policies about renting our facilities, our principles about renting them, and we have to adhere to them. In our events, we give significant visibility to associations, and we have to think that what the associations are and what kind of what values they have as their basis for the operations, and they have to also adhere to the AYY's values that they want to communicate to new students, because these associations are present in events with new students who have no idea what kind of activities this association does outside this event. And Henry's comment. I don't think any comment on genders. I think all discrimination based on gender, AYYE shouldn't support it. No matter if it's kind of men, women, or some other gender. There's a comment on that is whether just that we take this issue upon the board with very tight schedule, because for me it sounds very kind of nasty that now, before the May Day, we want to do this. That's kind of the point, but clearly we have the will to highlight this issue now, and everyone wants to discuss about this issue, but we can also talk about the issue later. But we should be maintained actively, also active different parties. And another thing was that this on a scale, discrimination is not kind of on-off situation. We have different structures. There are current channels, but for AYYE and KY, we advertise, for example, career nights only for women. I don't see it kind of a big moral problem. I tolerate myself, but we do it. I don't see it harmful for my own life. But the reality is that it's an event just for women. It doesn't matter what the company is, what their principles are, but when it's advertised with us, then through our channels, and I can go there because I have a penis here. Yes. But just come here when you're preparing. Yes, I think that I have a stand on this important delicate subject, but I want to find out that how the people's consistency who on this ground should take part, because people have talked about that how it's important that no one should be discriminated based on their gender. And then I found a very strong stand on that. I just checked that we have these associations within AYYE on the website. I don't know if it's outdated information, but they got associations that discriminate people based on gender, the political choir, the singers of the business, Aalto, the girls, which I heard that it's not a member anymore, but still on the list. These associations that discriminate people based on their gender. And the essential thing is that for AYYE to think that what are the associations that are important for our community and for our operations. I think in some way this julkkus significance for the community is visible in how popular it is, this Vappu magazine. Of course it is very important to take a stand on how it works, but I personally don't see that problem if an association discriminates someone based on their gender. If there's kind of women's association that only approves women and kind of have a significant role for the community, I don't see it's a bad thing. This kind of association has a significant role and function for the Aalto people, so by all means, they do something about it. So if also have competitive associations and take the market from them. I have a quick comment. Yes, of course, the male and female choirs take only male or female because they have physically different voice, and that is why the choirs have different kind of sound. But it's kind of principle. I'd like to comment that in our regulations we have an exception that for choirs we can have for males and females. But let's not talk more about choirs. Do you want to answer quickly? Yes, I am aware of the reasons behind this, that the choirs act in the way they do, of course. Not an idiot, but I want to point out that there are situations where this kind of discriminatory actions are accepted. So it's not kind of a definite prohibition to discrimination based on gender. That was my main point. I don't understand that is their existence of these associations is acceptable for AYYE, but how consistent these grounds are that people have used.
Here we go again. Kind of getting physical bad feelings from 2015. And this case is something that we've discussed this for a long time, and we've never actually discussed it. This specific point of this case is that this is us, for a community, really difficult to discuss things straight. You can say that there were no comments for Samel's opening, not because this is the right situation or not. It usually means that the discussion actually is derailed. We start to talk about general rules, we start to compare things and talk about issues not beside the point, which actually does not have to do with the point. This is difficult for us, this is really hard for me to discuss, that's why I have a memo here, especially for this. And we are undertaking this discussion, and it's a useless mean to avoid discussion by saying why now, because the discussion is taking place now. I hope that we can discuss this openly, and even if it feels uncomfortable, we're not used to discussing these. I hope that several people would bravely discuss these things and what they think on, even if it would be a difficult issue. In this case, we have different kinds of operators and different kinds of reactions, part of which feel maybe that one party or another party has created infringing structures, but these other parties, for example AYYYE or our representative council members, we can't take a direct stance on what associations do with their actions. And these actions that can react to the situation are, for example, AYYYE as a landlord, or for example the community. Us, we are discussing this issue. It might mean that it might mean special status associations. It might be in the Vappu magazine, the people who sell it, the people who buy it. There are different parties who can react to the pressure which sparks from the discussion which is taking place, and it is taking place, and the pressure is there, and it's real, and that change is upcoming. And that who is the person or party that will react, who will be the one doing the change, we don't know that yet. We cannot affect the actions of other people, we cannot decide if people will buy the magazine, we cannot decide how to make the Vappu magazine. All parties will react in their specific ways, but what AYYYE is responsible for deciding is that what will it do with the actions pertaining to its own values. For example, how will it handle its own facilities. And in this stage, AYYYE has a strong pressure from outside and the community to do some decisions. The pressure is very strong, when this action is something that's being very visible outside our community, for example, selling the Vappu magazine, when it's seen in society as something that our community does on a national level. Media is very interested. For example, in 2015 we noticed this. And this general discussion and the atmosphere, we need to have some sort of upcoming change. AYYE needs to think on what kind of activities will it support, what kind of a signal will it send. If it won't react in any way to a subject like this, which causes a lot of discussions, causes a lot of discussion in the media, and sparks and ignites it. People all understand that these processes for change are not straightforward, and I think that nobody will dispute the important work that's being done by many of these parties. For example, when we were discussing the Vappu magazine, Julkku, the work that's being done for our community as cultural work is irrefutable, but it doesn't remove the fact that if there is no change in the activities, is that AYYE must at some stage react so that we can stand with a straight back behind our own values and actually sign our own values and say that we support them. We're making these amazing projects, the Vappu magazines are one of these, and they're by talented individuals. Nobody wishes, I'm sure, that we are embarking from AYY's part and starting to strip them of their editorial facilities. But people probably understand that this discussion will not disappear in a few years, and the pressure for a reaction of some kind is ongoing and growing. And I personally, I believe, and I hope that AYYE would not have to react it, but at some stage it is inevitable that we do. Thank you. Thank you. We have 30 minutes left. Remember that. Now Petteri followed by Henry, somebody preparing. I'll say that Santeri said what I was going to say, so I retract my request for the floor. Comment? You're behind Sameli. Henry, Sameli and Kata preparing. A few quick comments to one straw man that's been brought up. That like we have this very large pressure to actually demand reactions. I didn't do that. I hoped that we could have a plan to correct the situation, to reach ground zero. We don't think we actually have to evict anyone with a week's notice. No. But that the process on how to fix this, we need to start the process now. And couldn't start it earlier if we acknowledge that we can break our own principles at this stage. Secondly, I hope that when you think about it could be, for example, the greener Aalto, the Aalto movements, right, that we need to discuss this, but no, it's Aalto's or AYY's as a landlord, it's their task to discuss and to find it out and to find a resolution. And to keep the strong measures to a minimum, but rather agree with things and unify and decide a student union that's good for everyone, because I don't hardly think that anybody actually benefits from the fact where we have gender discriminatory policies in place. I don't see any added value on that. So we can actually move to that goal to via a route that is suitable for everyone. I hope we find this. So, quick comment. Everybody has said what I've wanted to say. After Kata is Peppi and Johnny. Thank you, Henry, for an excellent request for the floor. I agree with these issues. One point that I forgot, maybe the most important point, why now, is that I think that this is our equality, or in terms of enabling equality is very important for AYYE. Nora talked about equality issues when applying as former of the board, so this year is excellent for action. And we also discussed the fact that what are these operational means of operation at this stage. Have we discussed with Julkku, have we discussed with the other parties? As an individual representative council members, how do I actually contact these associations that do the discriminations? We have them, but I don't know how to contact them. That's why I'm bringing this forward to the representative council, because this is my channel of advocacy. I hope the board takes heed of my discussion as a decision-making organ and forwards this ideology and my worries towards the associations that reside in our facilities and do gender discriminations. Somebody said that we cannot affect individual associations according to the legislation. All associations can choose their members as they please, but we can actually affect the fact that what kind of frameworks do we have in place, and we rent spaces very cheaply. We give these spaces to the associations and all kinds of activities take place there. It's our responsibility to check that they follow our principles and it's not discriminatory towards our member base. This is AYY's promise to our members, and it's our responsibility, and that's why AYYE needs to use the power that all members of the student union feel at welcome and feel at home in every their facilities. We cannot ensure we need to ensure that all the facilities we have here are safe for all our members. Thank you. Next speaker. Okay. First off, excellent point from Santeri. I agree largely. I hope and I think it's good that we discuss, because equality is really important. Simply said, gender discrimination is an archaic form and we should not support it, and it's not permissible. We discussed choirs, corporate evenings. These are actually derailing, because we cannot compare them to this, because these corporate evenings have a point which is gender equality in working life, where it doesn't actually apply. Then we discussed women of Aalto, was mentioned separately. All genders are welcome to join it, because everything else would be against AYYE regulations, and I would actually ask for the board's comment on this issue. Thank you. We talked about modes of advocacy. Clear is like, well, of course we won't evict people in a week, but when we discussed this topic, I hope that the board understand that this is out and about, and all that's being done during Vappu in the magazine means that AYYE will condone it. So omission is actually a show of support if we don't decide anything. We need to take a stance on the issue on some level, thinking of what kind of relationships we want to uphold and what not. I hope that we could make a bulletin from AYYE to bring information forwards, what kind of a background organization we have, because the member base cannot maybe find out these things. Like I actually heard out later is that I've been supporting this activity, then I found out that I have no chance of getting in. I hope that nobody else ends up in a situation where actually you support an activity that if you wouldn't support it if you knew better. To start with that, I'd like to thank going around to discuss these sensitive topics. It's about rhetoric, especially also before May Day. Presenting things could be maybe a bit milder. I'd say like remove the spaces, no questions. I said that no removal of spaces. This is the issue. That was this in your original proposal that actually no period of time would do, like people would forget this after May Day? Was this ideology behind here to actually to spark discussion or to spark decision? like these examples are kind of irrelevant, like Women of Aalto or the choirs. It's kind of a representation of the fact that this is not a clear and concise and simple issue. We have on a moral level, we have differentiating opinions, but we also have structures in place that are discriminatory. For example, if we talk about corporate evenings, if like the corporations aim to reach equality, but which is organized a company, I cannot get there, and that's being marketed in our channels. I think that's okay. It's an example of discrimination that we condone, but I don't morally agree. But maybe discussing it reach some sort of. But these are sensitive topics. For example, in the Aino-gate issue, I felt that was very invasive. The rhetoric of discussion. We could discuss things in a more mild manner or a different manner. Currently, I feel like this is some sort of a, well, clear, let's say, just kind of lynching or a kind of a witch hunt situation, where we kind of a moral court situation where the accused are not even present. Discriminatory issues that have been discussed here, of course, you need perspective. These are not something that are on or off, A or B. Like, of course, you can get to our member base, but where are the real networks created? Of course, no, it's made in these Facebook groups, something like that. It's perspective. That's okay, in my opinion. These are not on a singular level. They might be sensitive issues. We differentiate in our opinions. That's where you need to discuss these issues. Thank you. So, I hope that we actually focus on one association and corporate evenings. I don't know if it's purposeful. That's not the point of the conversation. I wish to thank the clarification that I received. We've talked about the Women of Aalto activities. My point of view was based on what the name of the organization gave us. But if it's open to everyone, for example, I also heard that the organization, it clarifies on how it has changed. I wish to reiterate the list. That was my main point, because that we have a lot of people who have expressed the will that they've said that in any situation they won't accept it. I wanted to give an example on, is this argumentation valid in that direction? Like, they didn't mean for the situation, but I would like to notify that there are situations where it can be seen as accepted, or based on the same argumentation at this stage. Thank you for the good input. Alisa, followed by Sameli and Joel.
5 minutes left, so if you have any other emerging matters, please keep your speeches short. Yes, I'd like to make a request about the discussion, since as a student union community, we have history with many different clubs, but we don't have history with open discussion. So I hope that we would create this kind of discussion, culture of discussion, and then see what that leads to. Hope that we get stuck on this gender issue, because there's a lot of other things related to this discrimination, and how AYYE supports or doesn't support some associations. It should be a transparent issue, at least within the student union, and the student union should be honest and transparent about its policies, even if all the associations are not. Yes, Juri, or was it Juri? No, it's Toni. Joni. I didn't mean to be attacking. I want to highlight methods that AYYE could use to react to this situation. Of course, I hope that they will react as soon as possible, because every day when there's discrimination is worse than a day when there is no discrimination. After we have kind of a discussion about the subject, we're having it now. After that, we'll not talk about rhetorics or kind of irrelevant associations that have nothing to do with the discussion, or about there's some situations in the world where discrimination by gender is accepted. If we focus on the issue and discuss about this gender discrimination within our community, which I hope no one actually supports. After Yuri, there was the last turn to speak, the last request for floor. So we can get home at some point. I hope that especially for the board, that based on the discussion we'll have from the next representative council sending a message about these methods, and I hope presume that there are. And I think the most important discussion very important discussion of equality has been kind of sidetracked when we talk about just about individual associations. I think it's much more important that the board can look at the big picture and look how equality is realized in associations, the support given to associations, rather than highlighting individual associations, the regulations of which I have no idea personally. And handling these kind of matters, like with kind of individual examples, are good rhetorics and good way to highlight these issues, to bring these issues forth. But then the big picture is kind of forgotten. People don't focus on the bigger problem anymore, but try to change the behavior of individual operators. Rather than focus on the big problems. And also I hope that the board would take a general stand on how AYYE operates regarding this. It would be transparent, it would be a step to the right direction, and would be clear proof that that's how AYYE reacts to this issue. If we discuss the operations of like individual associations, I don't think that's the right approach to the issue. Jari, please come forward. There's a few sentences. I hope request for the representation groups that they wouldn't be brought here like 3 days prior to the meeting, because it leads that when we discuss about things, there are no facts. Kind of know that what are the facts, what's the board's opinion. They can look into it for a couple of weeks and then give grounds on. This is my request. Yes, Henry and Samuel. If you know anything like groundbreaking things happen here, these are the last speeches. There's a general point. I talked about, highlighted this. We could have brought this issue forth in a better way. Of course, we could have brought it earlier. It's unfortunate that we didn't do it. But it's kind of paradoxical, this commenting, and people say that it's good that we discuss, but then people say that the start of the discussion was false, that it wasn't good. And if we think that the discussion could be started better, then please do so. Better openings for discussion and to open like the field. But as long as this nothing is happening for this matter, for this issue, then it's much better to bring it like in a bad way, start the discussion if it improves the community. But if you say that it's good that we're discussing, then it's kind of weird to be sidetracked to say that, well, this start of the discussion was kind of very wrong, because then it bypasses the issue. So please start the discussions better if you feel that you have a better touch to this. So definitely this is a common issue to all of us, and let's all work together for a better Aalto. The comment that practically always a bad start for discussion is better than no start for the discussion, and I think that everyone here hopes that issues are brought to the board well prepared, and that the board has time to prepare for that. I think everyone agrees. Yes, I agree that you're right, that we could have brought this issue up earlier. I made a mistake in that I did this so late. But before making the post, I called the chair of the board and asked if it's okay if I bring the issue forward like this. I also called the chair of the board this morning, asked if you had time to discuss it. And the answer was that they want to hear the representative discussion, after which they will discuss it themselves. So I propose that the board will now discuss the issue, ponder on concrete measures on how to promote equality and reduce discrimination based on gender in our community, and for the next meeting will bring us the information of what they have discussed. It's a kind of an exercise that all of you who think that discrimination based on gender is wrong, please raise your hands. Okay, so I think we can all agree that gender based on discrimination should not exist in the world. In the future, I'd hope that we don't start voting the representing council. It's nice to get a heads up on these kind of votes. Nico, please. I don't know where to start, but 2015, it is talking about the same issue. This is all kind of continued from that. Back then, when we thought about this issue, I just linked a kind of answer to a motion that was submitted to the Facebook group. I posted it there. And based on that, in 2016, we put it into our office program, this equality survey, because we saw that we're going to get this kind of comprehensive view on equality and industrialization in our community without it. And also in 2017, this equality theme, in a kind of broader sense, has been a part of our office program. And we also handled it here in the student union. And this is related to the comment that nothing has been done, because continuously at the office we are working towards equality. And a few kind of technical things. It's just kind of a legal, technical issues I want to point out. So that was mentioned. There's a lot of discrimination based on gender. Shouldn't be conducted according to the Finnish equality law. I'd also like to highlight, so that everyone knows what to discuss, is that according to association law, an association can be established which defines what kind of people can be part of the association. What are the conditions to be taken as a member of an association? But this should be stated in the regulations of the association, and this regulation should be adhered to. And then now from AYY's support and transparency, is that I'd see the way that the AYY's operations are pretty transparent. It's not entered anywhere like officially that what are the associations that we rent facilities to, but you can look from the link that I put up, for example, the different clubs that we provide facilities to and that we found in our register. And also we think that what are the limitations in our operations, that will be limited that with whom AYYE can cooperate with. So we can cooperate, as long as we adhere to the regulations, we can cooperate with all associations, whether they're on the first or second list. This is one way that we can influence that, our association regulation. We can use that to influence that who AYYE cooperates with. But yes, I suggest you to check through this set that I put up on the Representative Facebook group. I think the board also had a comment. We have 5 minutes left. There's a couple of jokes. But please no Johanna's jokes. Fortunately, Johanna is better at telling her own jokes than me. So, this is a very valuable opening for discussion. I think that there are no openings for discussion that come at the wrong time. Trustee Council can do them when they feel the need to do so. We need to go to the other emerging matters or to the agenda, depending on when this is done. So, and I encourage you to open these dialogues on Facebook or somewhere else at any time you please. There are no bad times, not in the middle of the night. Please do them. So we have this kind of valuable discussion. It's a very difficult discussion that's been brought up many times. It's very difficult also for everyone here and also for people outside this room. But the most important thing is that now we are discussing about this issue. After this meeting we have 4 weeks time to prepare, discuss for our next meeting together. That's what we think about this issue. We can also communicate this talk about this issue within the different representation groups that they form their opinions on what they think about it. What they think about who AYYE should support, what kind of activities. I hope that the groups will discuss, and we'll also talk about this with the chairpersons of the groups, and definitely the board will discuss this. And in the next meeting, then we will talk. I don't want to brought us information of what the board has discussed. I want us to go through all of the things that we have gone through in our groups, with the chairpersons, with the board, and I also want that we will wish that we would listen to the parties that have not been heard. So we have a month to do that. It's very difficult, but I hope that with everyone you will give us your thoughts, share them to all of us, and after that we will know what to do about this issue, how to fix this situation, how to make the community better for us. But let's do it together, and now we're talking about it. Thank you. Our proposal? Got a discussion with members of the board. Kind of discrimination discussion night where we could talk about this. Because there are clearly different opinions on this. It's nice to see. Because we'll be here for more than an hour and we haven't reached any conclusion. So maybe we could understand our others' opinions better through this kind of night. Yes, very good suggestion, I write it down. And one thing I must disagree is that I think in this hour we managed to go very far. We managed to get more done than in 2.5 years. And in the end I also like to thank all of you for your courage to talk, to tell your opinion on the issue. This is a very difficult topic. Thank you. Any other emerging matters? Like motions? That within AYYE is the Telegram network for communicating in different associations. When you take into account that the Russian authorities, however, want to decipher all of our messaging, we should think that there some other kind of communication channels to use in order to maintain the confidentiality. So we can plan it at some point. Yes, I agree very much with this. Very kind of these very conspiracy theory applications that you can use. Any other emerging matters? Apparently not. So moving on to making the closing 14. Moving on to 15, closing of the meeting. It's 20:55, closing the meeting.